Hello, my name is Juan Torres. I would like to tell my life story and who I came to be in Christ. I have the blessing to have been born in a Christian home. My parents took me to church, and there I learned about God and His love for me. When I was 15 years old, I felt in my heart the desire to serve God. After much prayer, I made the decision to go to seminary. I was not accepted because I was too young. I continued going to school. In my last year of high school, I started to make friends that were not a good influence in my life. They introduced me to a world that I was not used to. When I entered the university, I decided to move out of my parents' house and become independent. I started to work and go to school. Because of that decision, I completely stopped going to church and was further and further away from the Lord's path. I continued to relate myself with people that I had such a different lifestyle than mine, that I decided to bury everything that my mother had taught me and what I had learned in Sunday school. I started to have problems in my personal life. I always felt lonely even though I was surrounded by people all the time. I didn't understand what was happening to me. I remember asking my mother to pray for me, and she will tell me, I always do. I remember December 31st in 1990, I felt so sad and lonely that I told God, if you really exist, help me out of this loneliness and sadness. Help me to hate everything that is surrounding me in this world. That same night, God answered my prayer. For the first time in a long time, I felt peace in my heart. On New Year's Day, I went to visit my family. I need to talk with my mother. I told her what was happening to me the night before, and with joy she hugged me and said, the Lord has answered my prayers. I realized that God was giving me a second chance at life. In 1981, after my reconciliation with the Lord, I again felt God calling me to ministry. That is when I started to take classes to prepare myself to serve God. The Lord never left me aside even the hardest times. My desire is to serve Him with my life. After a few years, while working in a secular job, I felt the Lord want me to serve Him full time. I didn't feel worthy to serve Him. And every time I wanted to turn from my calling, I will have trials and tribulations in my life, which drew me closer to God. I didn't understand what was happening until one day, while reading my Bible, God spoke to me while I read Jeremiah 29:11, and that verse says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope in the future." When I finally learned to give God total control of my life, He gave me a love and passion that I had never felt before. The Lord has blessed me with my lovely wife, and together we serve God with all of our heart. I know the plans that God has for us are plans of good and not to evil. He has been our rock and fortress every step of the way. I invite you to take God by the hand. He is calling you by name, and He has plans for you. Just trust in Him, depend on Him, and wait upon the Lord. Joshua chapter 1 verse 9 says, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged, for I, the Lord your God, will be with you wherever you go.